Chapter 1. Go to Hell. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Xia Wan, go to hell. The medicine bottle in her hand fell to the ground and shattered into pieces. Xia Wan spat out blood from the corner of her mouth. She turned around with great difficulty. The man holding the dagger was her senior brother, who had betrayed her master. Why? She opened her mouth to ask for the reason. Tang Ming's grip on the dagger tightened, and his expression was grim. Don't blame me. You're always better than Bing Bing. With your medical skills, Bing Bing will never be first. As he spoke, his eyes became even fiercer, and he spun the dagger into Xia Wan's body. Don't worry, Bing Bing will go to the Xia family in your place and become their daughter. The credit for saving old Master Mu will go to Bing Bing. As long as you die, all of this will be Bing Bing's. She vomited even more blood, and everything in front of her became blurry. The scenes of the past appeared in her mind. Her mother, who had a face full of love, waited for her at the entrance of the village, and her two brothers, who held sticks to protect her, and Chen Mo, who had mistaken Xia Bing for her savior and even got engaged to her. The last one that entered her view was Tang Ming, whose face was filled with madness and hatred. Xia Bing, you stole everything from me. If there's a next life, I'll definitely make you pay back double. Her last bit of resentment dissipated, and Xia Wan completely lost consciousness. Bang! The door of the laboratory was kicked open from the outside. Looking at Xia Wan lying in a pool of blood, Chen Mo froze. He raised his eyes, and his fierce gaze made Tang Ming shiver. Chen Mo, weren't you on a holiday with Bing Bing? Before Tang Ming could finish his sentence, he was kicked over by Chen Mo. The broken glass pierced deeply into Tang Ming's exposed body, causing him to grimace in pain. Wan, wake up. I was wrong. It's all my fault. I was blind, and recognized the wrong person. Wan, wake up, please. Chen Mo held the person in his arms carefully. His hands trembled as he tried to cover her bleeding wound. Tang Ming stood up and wanted to run away. Bing Bing had promised him that as long as he killed Xia Wan, she would leave Chen Mo and marry him. He slowly picked up the container on the table and wanted to throw it at Chen Mo. Since Chen Mo was here, he would die with Xia Wan. He raised his hand high. Just as it was about to fall, a figure rushed over and broke his wrist. The person's eyes were filled with ruthlessness. It was the Xia family's young master, Xia Zhe. If you dare to touch the Xia family's daughter, I'll make you wish you were dead. Xia Zhe grabbed Tang Ming's collar and glared at him like a bloodthirsty monster. Tang Ming's eyes widened. No. Bing Bing is the real daughter of the Xia family. Impossible. How could they know? He had helped Bing Bing hide the truth. Sensing that Xia Wan was no longer breathing, Chen Mo stood up and stared at Tang Ming emotionlessly. He said word by word, Wan's gone. We're all sinners. We should all go to hell. The vicious aura that he was exuding terrified Tang Ming. The only thought left in his mind was to escape. This shameless brat. She doesn't work all day and knows only how to hook up with men. She deserves to fall into the water. I don't have any eggs for her. Mom, Wan isn't that kind of person. How can you trust an outsider but not your own granddaughter? Xia Wan was awoken by the argument between two women. When she opened her eyes, she was greeted by the sight of half-worn furniture and family photos on the wall. She felt cold and weak all over. She remembered that this was her home when she was still in the countryside. BDNV, the corners of her mouth pulled up into a bitter smile. Was this a remnant of memory after death? Wan, you're awake. Is there anywhere else that hurts? Are you hungry? While she was still in a daze, Xia Wan's mother, Yan Han, had already walked over and placed her rough and large hand on Xia Wan's forehead. Good, you're not burning up anymore. Thank God. Yen Han's eyes were filled with relief. Xia Wan's eyes widened at her mother's touch. Was this real? Suddenly, the door was pushed open, and the woman standing at the door with her nose up, and eyes full of disdain was her grandmother, Li Jin. I told you, this brat is stubborn. She said she wanted to eat eggs when she was sick. She doesn't want to work and is looking for excuses. Her studies are not as good as her two cousins, yet she is so lazy. Yen Han quickly shielded Xia Wan behind her and looked at Li Jin. Mother. Dr. Niu has examined her. Wan really has a fever. She didn't lie to you. Xia Wan's eyes turned red. She didn't die. She had just been reborn into a time 18 years ago. She remembered this scene. She was supposed to be on duty, so she left a little late, but when she walked to the stream, she was blocked by 3 girls. They surrounded her, beat her, and scolded her, just because the boy she liked had confessed to her. She was pushed into the river, and the girls were frightened. In order to shirk their responsibility, they told the public that they saw her leaving the school with a few delinquents. Since then, her reputation had been completely ruined, and she, an already poor student, was even more isolated at home. In the 1990s, everyone was conservative. Since then, Xia Wan had been even more silent. If she had not met her master, she wouldn't have been able to achieve anything in this life. It was so good that her parents were still around. Everything she had was still around. Xia Wan laughed. In this life, she would protect her family. No one could take them away from her. Yen Han and Li Jin's argument attracted the attention of Song Yan, their aunt. She tried to persuade them, "That's enough, mother, Yen Han. You two should stop talking. Wan has just woken up. Even if she's wrong, just educate her properly." Second Aunt Chen Lian also came over, her face filled with gloating. "Yen Han, this is your fault. No matter how big the matter is, how could you quarrel with your mother? You're being disrespectful to your elders, and you'll get retribution. Everyone knows that your Wan isn't good at her studies. If you've done something wrong, just admit it. It's not a big deal, but you just had to make excuses for it." Chen Lian looked as though she was there to intervene, but in actual fact, she believed Li Jin, that Xia Wan fell into the water because she had gone out to play with a group of hooligans. Even the usually weak Yen Han was angered by this, and she retorted loudly, "My Wan isn't a delinquent. She's usually so sensible and never does such things. You have no evidence, so what right do you have to say that about my Wan?" Yen Han's shouting angered Li Jin, who immediately rolled up her sleeves. "What? You're still shouting at me? You're a rebel. I'll show you the rules of the Xia family today." As she spoke, Li Jin's palm was raised, about to land on Yen Han's face. Chapter 2. No one can bully her. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The next moment, Xia Wan grabbed Li Jin's wrist. Xia Wan's eyes were cold, and she looked at Li Jin as if she were a dead man. "I'll see who dares to touch my mother today." Her soft voice pierced through everyone's ears, and she flung Li Jin's hand aside. After the initial shock, Li Jin's anger rose. She put her hands on her waist and became even angrier. "Good. Both mother and daughter dare to fight me, right? Someone come and take a look. Yen Han has brought her daughter along to bully. She is a seductress yet is in denial. Everyone, come and take a look." Xia Wan, an unfilial daughter, hit her own grandmother. Yen Han was a little flustered, and she hurriedly whispered to Xia Wan, Wan, quickly apologize to your grandmother. If she continues shouting like this, your reputation will be ruined." Chen Lian and Song Yan also chimed in and criticized Xia Wan, Wan, how can you be so insensible? How dare you hit grandma? Are you going to hit us too? Xia Wan stopped Yen Han and looked at the 3 of them with a cold smile. "Grandma, don't cry yet. Let me tell you the truth. I fell into the water not because I had an affair with a man. It was Xia Ru and Xia Yi, your other granddaughters who are first aunt and second aunt's daughters, who pushed me. They were jealous that their crush confessed to me, and they pushed me into the water. If you don't believe me, you can ask them to confront me and see if I'm right or not. What? Yen Han was shocked. She pulled Xia Wan over and reminded her, Wan, you can't just accuse them like that. Xia Wan gave her a reassuring look. Mom, I never slander people. Although it was true that Xia Ru and Xia Yi were not the ones who pushed her into the water, they were right beside her. Not only did they not even speak about saving her, they even watched her drown. They knew that she couldn't swim, yet they didn't even call for help, as though afraid that they would have to take responsibility. Fine, since you don't want to help, then I'll change the indirect manslaughter charge to conspiracy to commit murder. She would like to see if these two people had the guts to confront her. Seeing Xia Wan's confidence, Chen Lian and Song Yen panicked. They pulled Li Jin over. Mother, stay calm. Let's wait for the two children to come back and ask them first. At that time, they suddenly realized that something was wrong. Usually, the two children should have returned early. Why did they take so long today? In a corner that no one noticed, Xia Yi covered her mouth. It was over. Xia Wan was starting to exact revenge on her. She was so flustered she didn't know what to do. She did not even dare to come out and confront her grandma. I'm going to find Big Brother. He definitely has a way. Xia Yi said determinedly. As long as Xia Wan's bad reputation was solidified, she could get away with it. Xia Wan, don't blame me. Who asked you to drag me into this? Soon, Xia Yi found Xia Yu and said angrily, Brother, go and get Xia Wan. Zhu Li clearly pushed her into the pond, but she told Grandma that it was me and Xia Ru who pushed her in. Brother, she framed us in front of Grandma. You have to help us. Xia Yi knew that her brother, Xia Yu, was Grandma's favorite. As long as her brother went over, Xia Wan would have to step aside no matter how powerful she was. Xia Yu was indeed angry and clenched his fat fists. All right. How dare you bully my sister, Xia Wan? She's getting bolder. Let's go. I'll back you up. He was born tough, and his family doted on him a lot. He would always come first when it came to delicious food, but they often bullied Xia Wan. A smile appeared on Xia Ye's face as she confidently followed Xia Yu. At this time, Xia Wan was still confronting Li Jin. Neither of them was backing down. Xia Yu walked over angrily. When Li Jin saw that it was Xia Yu, she grinned so widely that the wrinkles on her face appeared. Good child, why are you here? Did Xia Wan wake you up? I'm fine, Grandma, but my sister is not. She came back with me. How did she become the one who pushed Xia Wan? She's lying. With Xia Yu's testimony, Xia Yi looked at Xia Wan smugly, as if to say, you're the only one who knows how to frame people. I can even get help. Xia Yi was from Xia Wan's second uncle's family. Her second aunt, Chen Lian, immediately smiled and said, I told you. The girls from both our families are good girls. How could they do such an awful thing? Then, she looked at Xia Wan coldly. Wan, you're already 18 this year. You're an adult. Lying is a bad habit. Today, you have to apologize to us in front of everyone and we'll let this matter go. I remember that your dad is about to get his salary. He just so happens to have money to buy things for us. Xia Wan laughed coldly. Second aunt, you're a real good schemer. My dad's salary hasn't been paid yet, and you're already thinking about it. In the past, this money was always given to Grandma, right? Now that you're asking for money, did Grandma agree? This simple sentence caused Li Jin to glare at Chen Lian. Clearly, this sentence struck a chord in Li Jin's heart. The money that her son earned was meant to be given to her, as a sign of filial piety. How could she give it to her daughter? Law. Even if she had given birth to a good grandson for her, she still couldn't do so. Chen Lian's expression immediately changed. She put on a fawning smile and said, "Mother, don't believe her words. How would I dare to spend your money? This girl is scheming. She's trying to sow discord between us." Xia Wan snorted coldly and ignored her. She looked at Xia Yu with a fierce gaze. "You said that you came back with Xia Yi. Then why did you ignore me when I called for help? Why did you watch me get pushed into the water by Xia Yi and Xia Ru?" Xia Wan's sudden outburst stunned Xia Yu, and he retorted, "Bullsh *t. It was Zhu Li who pushed you. My sister only saw it and didn't do anything." After he finished speaking, Xia Yu realized that he had said the wrong thing and almost slapped himself. Xia Yi pursed her lips and glared at Xia Yu. "My good brother, did you just sell your sister out?" Chapter 3. Foraging for medicine in the mountains. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Xia Wan retracted her aura and said with a faint smile, "Oh, so it wasn't Xia Yi who pushed me. She clearly saw me fall into the water but didn't save me. First aunt, second aunt. The daughter you've raised is really not bad. Grandma has always said that we're a family, and even if we're doing well, we should take care of the other families. So, my father gave all the money he earned to Grandma, afraid that she would say that he doesn't care about the family. But my two cousins watched as I was pushed into the water. They didn't save her, nor did they call for help. If Uncle Lu hadn't happened to pass by and saved me, I'm afraid I would have died in the lotus pond." Xia Wan's questioning rendered both ladies speechless. First aunt glared at second aunt and Xia Yu. These two idiots couldn't even speak properly. Li Jin saw that the situation wasn't right, so she took advantage of her seniority and said directly, all right. Your two sisters were too shocked to save you. Aren't you fine now? Let's forget about this. No, I want eggs and money to buy medicine. Otherwise, I'll let everyone know that the two sisters of the Xia family are so selfish and cold, they don't care about their own cousin's life. Li Jin's body twitched in anger. "You cursed girl, I can't do anything to you, can I? When your dad comes back, you'll see how he deals with you." Xia Wan's eyes darkened at the mention of her father, Xia Hai. Xia Hai was an honest man, but he was filial to a fault. Every time Li Jin and Yan Han had a conflict, he would always side with Li Jin. At that time, Xia Wan was still young and couldn't stand Xia Hai's favoritism. She had a lot of complaints, but she never talked to him. Instead, she only became more and more rebellious. The young Xia Wan didn't understand the ways of the world. She would bully whoever bullied her. Xia Ru and Xia Yi were the ones who started the trouble, but in the end, it was all Xia Wan's fault. Xia Wan refused to admit her mistake. Her mother was the one who took all the punishment. In this second life, she was determined to protect her mother. This family of trash, she would pay them back for how they treated her in the past. Li Jin left after saying those harsh words, and the two aunts also took Xia Yu and Xia Yi away. The house was empty in an instant, leaving only Yan Han and Xia Wan. Don't quarrel with your grandma in front of her. If the people in the village spread rumors, it will affect your reputation. Your father doesn't care about anything. You should be more obedient in the future. Your grandma will treat you better. Yan Han tried to persuade Xia Wan, and then said with a pained heart, "Don't be afraid. Mom's here. I'll go find you something to eat." Yan Han was about to set off, but Xia Wan pulled her back and forced a smile. "Mom, I'll go. There's a lot of food on the mountain. I'll get some meat. We can have a good meal too." "That won't do. You just fell into the river, and your body is weak. How can you go up the mountain? Rest well. I'll go." Xia Wan stopped her. Mom, I know my limits. A few days ago, I ate a piece of fruit on the mountain. My body felt very warm from it. I'm going out now to bask in the sun to get rid of the cold. Maybe I'll be fine when I come back. Yen Han still wanted to persuade her, but Xia Wan simply picked up her basket and jogged out. After she walked out of the house, the smile on Xia Wan's face disappeared. She calmly analyzed the situation. In her previous life, she had fallen ill because of this incident. Whenever the weather was cold or rainy, she would feel chilly and uncomfortable all over. The cold air that seeped into her bones was especially torturous. It took her more than 10 years to completely recuperate. Now that she had medical skills, she could go up the mountain to gather some medicine and cure the disease. Thinking of this, Xia Wan couldn't help but feel a little emotional. The illness that had tortured her so much in the past was now back, and it wasn't so easy to get rid of. It was clear that she had to be more careful in the future to avoid making mistakes again. If she did, there would be no chance of repeating it. She had thought that her heart would be filled with hatred when she reincarnated. That hatred, however, had been diluted by a lot. She felt extremely grateful to be alive, and all she wanted was for her illness to be cured and for a healthy body. Now that her parents and brothers were fine, she still had a chance to save them. Thinking of this, Xia Wan could not help but smile. She needed to become stronger as soon as possible so that she could better protect her family. Chapter 4. Deciding to save Chen Mo. You are listening at novelfull.audio. There were mulberry branches in the back of the mountain. As long as they were picked and soaked in medicine, the roots would be removed after a few days of drinking. Xia Wan did not know much about medicine when she was young and treated all the herbs in the back mountain as weeds. Now that she thought about it, it was really a waste. As long as she looked carefully, she might find other herbs that could help her family earn some money. Thinking of this, Xia Wan walked even faster, looking for the position of the mulberry branch in her memory. After walking for a while, there was a sudden smell of blood in the air. Xia Wan immediately straightened her body and followed the smell of blood to the wild grass in front of her. A man in a suit with sharp eyebrows and bright eyes was curled up on the ground with a pained expression. Although only half of his face could be seen, she could still tell that the other party was very handsome. Xia Wan's intuition told her that the man in front of her was not an ordinary person. If she saved him, there would be a lot of trouble. However, as a doctor, she could not just watch a patient die in front of her. Just as Xia Wan was about to step forward to check on the situation, someone grabbed her wrist. The man turned over, and she was directly pinned under him. With eyes full of vigilance, he obviously thought Xia Wan was a villain. Xia Wan's body reacted faster than her brain, and she directly kicked the man's wound. Ow! The man cried out in pain and immediately loosened his grip on Xia Wan. Xia Wan took the opportunity to break free. The knife in her hand was on the man's neck. If she used a little force, the man would be dead. Don't move. I don't mean to hurt you. I'm here to save you. When Xia Wan finished speaking, she realized that the man in front of her was extremely familiar. It was none other than Chen Mo, the man who had mistaken Xia Bing for his savior and even got engaged to her. Xia Wan's expression was complicated. She did not expect Chen Mo to have come to the village at this point in time in his previous life, and he had even been injured. If she had not come today, someone else would have come and saved Chen Mo instead. After hesitating for a moment, Xia Wan still decided to save him. After all, Chen Mo had helped her many times in her previous life. When she was kidnapped, he was the one who met her by chance and saved her when she was accidentally involved in the robbery, and he was the one who rescued her. Even if he had mistaken her for someone else, it was only because Xia Bing had somehow hidden the truth. The misunderstanding between them notwithstanding, Chen Mo was still a kind and upright person. I'm here to check on your wound. Relax a little. Xia Wan put her thoughts aside and started to examine Chen Mo's wound. Chen Mo looked at the fair and beautiful girl in front of him and was slightly surprised. He did not expect that there would be such a beautiful girl in this mountain village. He quickly let his guard down. For some reason, he subconsciously felt close to this girl. Xia Wan lifted his clothes. There was a wound on the man's abdomen that was simply bandaged, but blood was seeping out from the inside. It was obvious that the bleeding had not been properly stopped. You wait here. I'll go find some medicine. As she spoke, Xia Wan stood up. There were herbs that could stop bleeding nearby. She would grind them with a stone, tear off Chen Mo's clothes, then bandage his wound again. Once the bleeding stopped, she would send Chen Mo to the village. Someone should probably come to pick him up. He looked at her back as she left, and his eyes were filled with doubt. She looks like a teenager, and she must have grown up in the village. Could she really know about medicinal herbs? Chen Mo could not be blamed for being suspicious. According to the current conditions, it was difficult enough for a woman who grew up in a village to be able to study in a school. There was not even 1 in 10 villages who knew medical skills. He didn't stay puzzled for too long, for soon, Xia Wan came to Chen Mo's side with the ground herbs. She removed the cloth that was wrapped around him, wiped it briefly, and applied the medicinal herbs. She raised the knife in her hand and cut off a piece of his clothes, then bandaged his wound again. She had also cut the inner layer of his clothing. A part of his waist was exposed, and his face was a little red. Miss, aren't you? Little too bold. If it weren't for the sincerity in her eyes, he would have suspected that this woman was trying to take advantage of him. After all, countless women had pursued him since he was young, and they had used all kinds of means to attract his attention. Hearing this, Xia Wan couldn't help but roll her eyes. Have you heard that there's no gender in a doctor's eyes? In my eyes, you're a patient. All I have to do is to treat you the best I can. That's all. Plus, aren't you being a little too much of a narcissist? Xia Wan continued. What makes you think that you can attract my attention in the sorry state you're in? Chapter 5. She's very special. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. She's very special. When she met Chen Mo in her previous life, he was dressed in casual clothes. With just one look, he managed to make the kidnappers who were holding her tremble in fear. At that time, Chen Mo was cold, handsome, and her savior. He had left a very good impression on Xia Wan's heart. The Chen Mo in front of her, however, still retained some childishness. He was only 20. Hearing Xia Wan's words, Chen Mo's face turned even redder. He had never expected that his most confident charm would be completely useless in front of this girl. He smartly caught Xia Wan's words and asked, You said doctor. So you're a doctor. I've only heard of Dr. Nyo from your Shichen village, but I've never heard of a young female doctor. Xia Wan narrowed her eyes. She did not expect Chen Mo to be so smart even when he was injured. She smiled, but her eyes remained indifferent. What a coincidence. I'm a genius. I only read a few medical books, and I've learned it all. Congratulations. You're my first patient. Her smile was bright, but Chen Mo's face froze. He lowered his head and looked at his already bandaged wound, not knowing whether to be happy or worried. I trust in your skills, Chen Mo finally said. Xia Wan raised her eyebrows, her eyes full of doubt. You seem to trust me. Why? Chen Mo also smiled. If I said that I thought you looked kind when I saw you, would you believe me? I believe you're a good person and have amazing medical skills. Xia Wan rolled her eyes and said, Don't be cheeky. I think you don't have any other choice. You had to trust me whether you wanted to or not. After all, no one can save you now except me. Chen Mo sighed. Little girl, being too smart is not always a good thing. An ordinary girl would have long bought the guy's praises, but not this girl. Her clear eyes seemed to be able to see through his flattery. "What's your name?" Chen Imo asked. Xia Wan didn't want to say it at first, but when she thought about how they would have to deal with each other again in the future, and that Xia Bing was the one who took the credit in her previous life, she knew she had to take all the credit for saving people in this life. "Xia Wan. What about you?" Chen Imo. Xia Wan nodded. "You can go down the mountain after you rest. I still have things to do. I'll leave you to it." After saying that, she turned around and left without giving Chen Imo a chance to speak. Looking at Xia Wan's back, Chen Imo was very surprised. The watch he was wearing was inlaid with diamonds. It was obviously very expensive, but this girl didn't even look at it. She had saved him, but she did not even have the intention to ask for any reward. If he hadn't taken the initiative to ask for her name, this girl probably wouldn't have even wanted to tell him. "Xia Wan," the man repeated and then smiled. "Yes, it's a good name. I'll remember it." After walking for a distance, Xia Wan's face turned pale, and her breathing became rapid. She found a tree trunk to lean against and finally had time to catch her breath. She already got a cold after falling into the water, and she had to struggle to save Chen Imo just now. Thus, whatever remaining strength she had was completely gone. Chen Mo's appearance reminded her of Xia Bing. Just thinking of this person filled Xia Wan's eyes with hatred. After Chen Imo had saved Xia Wan's life twice, she was filled with gratitude and always wanted an opportunity to repay him. That year, Xia Wan officially finished her apprenticeship. Her master said that there was nothing else he could teach her, so she chose to travel the world to help people in need. It was also that year that Xia Wan received a special patient. His breathing was weak, and had a body riddled with wounds, especially a deep one near his heart. Many doctors said that they didn't dare to fix him, nor did they have the ability to do so. This patient was Chen Imo, the man Xia Wan had wanted to repay her kindness with. In order to save him, Xia Wan put in all her effort and concentration, and after over 10 grueling hours of surgery, she finally managed to save him from the hands of the Grim Reaper. After the operation, Xia Wan fainted due to exhaustion. When she woke up again, she found herself locked in a small dark room with only a dark window and someone bringing her food every day. There, she saw Tang Ming, her senior brother whom she had always respected. "Why?" she asked, her eyes full of confusion. Tang Ming's indifference at that time still made her feel cold all over. "There's no reason. Your credit goes to Bing Bing. Remember, Bing Bing is the one who saved Chen Imo. If you promise to keep this a secret, I'll let you go. I'll even help you prepare the equipment and funds needed to save your brother." Chapter 6. We Are Even. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Tang Ming glanced at the pale-faced Xia Wan and continued, "Of course, Bing Bing is behind all this. You know, Bing Bing is a noble. You can't save your brother who has terminal cancer in time. As long as you agree to give up your reputation, you can exchange it for your brother's health. You can still make money with your medical skills in the future. This is a good deal." Xia Wan smiled bitterly. At that time, she had no other choice. Her brother's illness could not wait. Tang Ming was right. Xia Wan, who had just finished her apprenticeship, had no money or connections. No one would believe her. It was difficult for her to save her brother on her own. Hence, Xia Wan made a compromise. She didn't expect that this would allow Xia Bing to completely steal her life. Later on, Xia Wan heard that Chen Imo and Xia Bing got engaged only because Xia Bing was the person who had saved his life. Xia Wan tried to tell Chen Imo the truth. She wanted to tell him that she had saved him. However, she also knew that Chen Imo wouldn't believe her. Xia Bing had bribed everyone related to the operation that year, to which all said that Xia Bing was the one who saved Chen Imo. At that time, Xia Wan realized the significance of having money and power. After she saved her brother, he became healthy, and she became famous. More and more people came looking for her, and her life improved. However, the man she had a crush on would never belong to her again. Xia Wan had already recovered some strength as she put away those memories. She picked the mulberry leaves and was about to go home when she saw a familiar medicinal herb on a nearby cliff. Her eyes widened, and her heart began to thump in excitement and joy. It's ginseng. The initially frail girl was suddenly filled with fighting spirit. She climbed towards the cliff. Even if there was danger, she was not afraid. Upon closer inspection, she realized that the wild ginseng was actually 50 years old. In that era, wild ginseng was very expensive, but because it was very difficult to find, very few would spend the effort to find it in the mountains. The probability of finding wild ginseng was like winning the lottery. Xia Wan did not expect her luck to be so good that she would actually run into one. It must be because she had just saved Chen Mo. This was a blessing in disguise. Now, God was giving her back. If he were to sell this wild ginseng, it would be worth a few years of her father's earnings. The overjoyed Xia Wan became even more cautious of her surroundings. The ginseng grew in a dangerous place, and the soil nearby was loose. If she made a mistake, she would roll down the cliff with it. Hence, she dug carefully and dug out the ginseng bit by bit. Xia Wan employed masterful techniques, and the ginseng was basically undamaged. Holding the root in her arms, Xia Wan was as happy as a child. However, it was then that her feet slipped, and she began to slide down the hill. Her first reaction was to wrap the ginseng in her clothes. Even if she was injured, the ginseng must not be damaged. Just as she thought she was going to fall, a soft cushion caught her. She slowly opened her eyes and was greeted by Chen Mo's handsome face. "You. Why are you here?" Xia Wan asked in surprise. Chen Mo's face was filled with pain. After putting Xia Wan down, he said, "When I tried to save you, my wound reopened." Xia Wan followed his line of sight. As expected, the wound that she had bandaged earlier was bleeding again. The girl looked a little embarrassed as she thought about the intimacy between the two of them just now. In this era, everyone was still very conservative. Hugging or anything of that sort was enough to be considered outrageous behavior. Just now, she had fallen directly into Chen Mo's arms. Her face pressed so hard against the man's chest, she could even hear his heart beating. "Wait a moment. I'll treat your wound for you." As Xia Wan spoke, she quickly turned around and placed her ginseng into the basket. Then, she covered the ginseng with the wild grass she picked on the road. She looked at Chen Mo and moved closer to check on his wound. As she got closer, his face turned red. At first, his wound hurt a lot when he was lying down. However, he could feel that the pain had reduced, probably thanks to the medicine that she had used. As the two of them stood face to face, Chen Mo's senses were so heightened that his heart was beating much faster. Xia Wan, on the other hand, was focused on checking the wound and had no time to think about anything else. After the examination, she nodded and said, "I've checked it. It's nothing serious. All you have to do is go down the mountain and find a proper hospital to deal with it. It's almost dark, and there are wild animals at night. It's not safe here." Chen Mo smiled and looked at her. "Are you concerned about me?" Chapter 7. Xia You beaten up. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Xia Wan looked at him in confusion. Even if it were someone else on the mountain, I would still remind them to go down the mountain as soon as possible, let alone you. I'm realizing that you always like to overthink things. Stop thinking about all those unnecessary things in the future. It's a waste of brain space. Chen Mo could no longer smile. He also realized that the charm he was so proud of was of no value to Xia Wan. When other girls looked at him, they either admired him or liked him. In short, they all wanted a chance to talk to him to get closer. However, when it came to Xia Wan, she always seemed to be in a hurry to cut off all ties with him. This Xia Wan was very special, and she left a deep impression in Chen Mon's heart. No matter what, I have to thank you, Chen Mo said. Xia Wan waved her hand nonchalantly. Whatever. We're even now. I saved you once, and you saved me once. It's all good. I'm leaving, do as you please. After Xia Wan finished speaking, she turned around and left without any hesitation. Xia Wan quickly went down the mountain and went home to hide the wild ginseng. The Xia family hadn't split up yet, and her eldest uncle and second uncle's families were also living with them, so she had to protect this treasure. She had just opened the door when she saw Xia Yu rummaging through her closet. Xia Yu! What are you doing? Xia Wan roared. This B** starred, Xia Yu was actually rummaging through her things when she wasn't around and entered her room without asking her first. This was what a thief would do. Seeing that Xia Wan had returned, Xia Yu did not panic at all. He looked at her in disdain. I'm hungry. I don't have anything to eat at my place. I heard that you need to nurture your body now, so your mother must have prepared something for you. Where is it? Hurry up and take it out, save me the trouble of looking for it. Xia Wan was so angry that she laughed. Xia Yu, you also know that I need to nurture my body when I'm sick. Now, you're here to snatch my nourishing food just because you're hungry. As she spoke, Xia Wan glared at Xia Yu with hatred, which made Xia Yu feel a little afraid. The more Xia Wan thought about it, the angrier she became. At that time, the family was generally poor. The boys ate more, and the families did less work. The money earned by the three families had to be handed over to Li Jin, but how she spent it depended on her mood. Li Jin had always been biased towards Xia Yu. When Xia Wan was sick, all she wanted was an egg, but Li Jin wouldn't even let her. Xia Yu, on the other hand, could get an egg every day. Xia Wan also had older and younger brothers, but none of them were as lucky as Xia Yu. It was difficult enough to have eggs every 2 days. Every time it was time to eat, Xia Yu would never be full and snatched other people's food. Li Jin never scolded him when she saw this and instead acquiesced to his behavior. Xia Yu said disdainfully, "You're a girl. You don't eat much, to begin with. I'm just afraid that you'll waste it. Don't be ungrateful. Hurry up and hand over the food." He started to stare at the basket on Xia Wan's back. What did you go up the mountain for? Did you look for food? Let me see if there's anything good in there. As he spoke, he was about to snatch it from her. Xia Wan naturally wouldn't let him get it, so she took a step back to avoid him. You must be hiding something. Otherwise, what are you hiding for? Xia Yu laughed. He was about to rush over again when a boy rushed into the room next door and nudged Xia Yu away with his body. You can't bully my family. Get lost. Xia Wan looked at the small and scrawny guy standing in front of her. It was her brother, Xia Feng. Her eyes reddened, and she subconsciously called his name. Xia Feng. Xia Feng turned around and glanced at her. Then, his little face tensed up, and he turned around and went back into the house. Xia Yu also stood up. He did not expect to be attacked by Xia Feng. His expression became ferocious, and he shouted, "Xia Feng, how dare you sneak up on me? I'll show you what I'm capable of today." As he spoke, he was ready to go after Xia Feng. Xia Wan's face darkened. That she could tolerate it if they wanted to hit her, but if they wanted to hit her brother, Xia Yu would be finished. Xia Wan picked up a book from the table and was about to throw it at Xia Yu when suddenly, somebody rushed in from outside and pounced on Xia Yu fiercely. He held Xia Yu in place and yelled, "You're bullying my brother and sister in front of me. Xia Yu, I'll beat you up today." Xia Wan saw the man clearly. He was tall, and his skin was a little dark due to his frequent exposure to the sun. He had short, neat hair that basically needed little care. His facial features were completely defined, and he was a handsome boy. This was her eldest brother, Xia Chen. He was 20 and had graduated high school, but didn't continue to study in college. In this era, it was impressive enough if a village had one college student. Chapter 8. Big Brother is still the best. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Looking at the person, Xia Yu panicked. Although he was a year older than Xia Chen, he was no match for Xia Chen in terms of fighting. It was mainly because Xia Yu was always slacking off in the fields, as compared to Xia Chen. Xia Yu stopped what he was doing and warned him. "Don't hit me, or I'll tell Grandma that your whole family is bullying me." Xia Chen laughed in anger. "You're an adult, yet you still want to complain to Grandma. What, you're relying on Grandma to support you for the rest of your life? You snatch other people's food when you eat but can't even solve a small problem. Are you even a man? Weren't you so fierce when I wasn't around? Why did you stop fighting the moment I came?" Originally, Xia Yu really didn't intend to fight with Xia Chen, but after being provoked by him, Xia Yu suddenly grew a backbone. He immediately rolled up his sleeves and looked at Xia Chen fiercely. "You really think I can't beat you? I've always been letting you win, but you've become stronger. Today, I'll show you what I'm capable of." After saying that, the two of them started wrangling and fighting. Xia Wan was a little nervous as she stared at the two guys going at it. She was afraid that something would happen to her brother. Then, Xia Wan realized that Xia Yu was fat and only had brute force. Every time they fought, he would use one fat arm, but he would be too slow. Xia Chen could easily dodge him without using much strength. After exchanging two moves, Xia Chen was fine, but Xia Yu was so tired that he started to pant. "Xia Chen, you only know how to dodge. What kind of skill is that? If you're so capable, come fight me." Xia Yu couldn't hit Xia Chen, so he started to attack him with words. Xia Chen snorted and kicked Xia Yu against the wall when he wasn't paying attention. Xia Yu screamed in pain. The commotion here quickly attracted the attention of the others. Li Jin and Chen Lian rushed over. Seeing that Xia Yu was injured, Chen Lian immediately ran over to help him up, her face full of heartache. "My son, what happened to you? Did Xia Chen hit you?" As she spoke, Chen Lian looked at Xia Chen again. She concealed the anger in her eyes and, instead, played victim. "Xia Chen, my Xia Yu is older than you, and he's also your brother. He usually knows his limits and always lets you guys have your way, yet you're so cruel. Just because my Xia Yu is too honest, your family ganged up to bully him. I'll have to ask Xia Hai about this today. How does he usually discipline his children?" Li Jin's eyes were filled with heartache when he saw that the usually lively Xia Yu was now in so much pain that his face was scrunched up and his body curled up. Hence, she agreed with Chen Lian's words without even thinking. She roared angrily, "Xia Chen, how dare you bully your cousin? Are you going to bully me in the future? Today, I'll teach you a good lesson and let you know some rules." Li Jin was about to attack, but Xia Chen didn't dare to fight back. This was his grandmother. Once he made a move on his elders, he would be considered an unfilial son, and he would be ostracized to death. Xia Wan stood in front of Xia Chen, shielding him behind her. She stared at Li Jin as if she had just returned from hell. Li Jin couldn't help but feel frightened. "Grandma, you didn't even ask what happened, and you think my brother is in the wrong. I know you're biased, but I didn't know you made it so obvious. Aren't you afraid of being laughed at?" Xia Wan then looked at Chen Lian. "Don't you know what kind of person your son is? I'd like to ask you. Since you said that we bullied Xia Yu, why did Xia Yu appear in our room? He's fine. What's he doing in our room? More importantly, this is my room. Even if Xia Yu is my cousin, there are still differences between men and women. He barged into my room just like that. Is he trying to ruin my reputation? When I fell into the river, my cousin just watched and didn't save me. Now that I'm alive, does my cousin still plan to ruin my reputation? Are you guys trying to force me to my death? Xia Wan shouted the last sentence. After she finished speaking, her tears flowed out. On one hand, she was already in such a state of mind, and if she didn't cry, she wouldn't look pitiful. On the other hand, she really felt sorry for her family. Her father was usually the most filial, and her mother was also honest, but Li Jin's heart was partial towards her eldest and second uncle. Her grandma had never sided with them. Wasn't she just playing the victim? What Chen Lian could do, she could too. Chen Lian's heart skipped a beat. She wondered why Xia Wan's personality had changed after she fell into the river. Now, she was even acting pitifully in front of everyone. Chapter 9. Who doesn't know how to act pitiful? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Who doesn't know how to act pitiful? BDNV. Wasn't this what Chen Lian was best at? Xia Ye's grades were better than Xia Wan's, so Chen Lian often told Li Jin how promising her two children were. It was also because Xia Yi had helped Li Jin gain a reputation, and she had also buttered her up very well, so Li Jin had always been biased toward her family. But now, Xia Wan actually used her usual tactic to make herself look pitiful and call Xia Yu the culprit. Wan, you can't just say that. How did it become our Xia Yu bullying you? He has always been an honest person. How could he do something like that? Xia Wan's emotions were at their peak, and she cried naturally. Her tears continued to flow, and Xia Chen's heart ached for her. He wanted to kick Xia Yu again. Xia Wan continued, "Second aunt, I was very weak after I fell into the river. There was no food at home, so I went to go to the mountains to see if there was anything to eat. But there's nothing on the mountains now, so I only brought back some wild grass. But as soon as I returned to my room, I saw a man. I was so scared that I thought there was a thief and that someone had come to steal my things. However, when I saw that it was Xia Yu, I asked him what he was doing there. In the end, he said that I was sick, so there had to be good food around. He wanted to take my food away because he wanted to eat more. But second aunt, I'm still unwell. I'm feeling very uncomfortable. I didn't get any food, yet he came here to snatch it from me. Second aunt, what did I do to offend you? It's fine that no one thought about treating my illness, but now, do I not even deserve food?" Xia Wan's questioning made Chen Lian lose face. She understood Xia Yu and knew that Xia Wan was telling the truth. However, she could not admit that it was Xia Yu's fault in front of everyone. She immediately smiled and said, Wan, this is probably a misunderstanding. Your brother is still growing, so he eats a lot. Didn't Yan Han ask for eggs from me today? He must have thought you had extra eggs, so he came to ask. Second aunt, don't you know if grandma even gave me any eggs? Xia Wan sneered. Xia Wan then looked at Li Jin. Grandma, did you give me any eggs? Li Jin's expression became a little unnatural. Of course, she hadn't given her any eggs. It was just falling into the water, and it wasn't a big deal. Why did she need to eat eggs? Just drinking some warm water would do the trick. However, Xia Wan's attitude made Li Jin very unhappy. She questioned her in front of so many juniors, making her lose face as an elder. I already said that I don't have any extra eggs. It's not like I don't want to give you any. I also don't have anywhere else I could get those for you, Li Jin said impatiently, but she admitted that she didn't give Xia Wan any eggs. Xia Wan looked at Xia Yu. You heard that, right? Grandma didn't give me any eggs at all. This is your fault. If you didn't come to my place to look for food, I wouldn't have thought that there was a thief. As for the fight with my brother, you were the one who started it. You did something wrong, yet you still hit me. You got injured because you were too weak and couldn't win. Just because you're injured, does that mean my brother is in the wrong? Alright, then I'll bang my head against the wall right now, so the public will know that you forced me to do this. As she spoke, Xia Wan really did hit her head against the wall. Xia Chen reacted quickly and immediately pulled Xia Wan back. His face was full of love. Wan, don't be afraid. I'm here. No one can bully you. Chen Lian and Li Jin were dumbfounded. They had only said a few words to her. How did she end up hitting the wall? If something really happened to Xia Wan today, their family's reputation would be completely ruined. Li Jin, too, was a little scared. She felt that Xia Wan had changed since she was rescued. In the past, Xia Wan would, at most, throw a tantrum in front of Xia Hai and Yan Han. Now, she dared to rebuke her in front of so many, and even threatened her with death. However, she was really afraid. Xia Wan had become too ruthless now. At that moment, the voices of 3 people could be heard from outside the door. The 3 men from the Xia family had returned. Mother, why are you all in our room? What are you talking about? Xia Wan's father, Xia Hai, asked with a smile. He had not yet realized the seriousness of the matter. When he entered the house, he realized that his 2 children were standing together, and Xia Wan was still crying. Wan, what's going on? Chen Lian's husband, Xia He, was also standing beside her. Seeing Xia Yu's miserable state, she couldn't help but ask, what's wrong with Xia Yu? Who did this? Chapter 10. The Biased Li Jin. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Xia He's arrival put Chen Lian's heart at ease. Our son was beaten up by Xia Chen, she said hurriedly. Now Xia Wan's like a crazy person. She's even banging her head against the wall. She wants to embarrass the entire Xia family. As she spoke, she looked at Li Jin as if she was protesting her injustice. Sigh. I really pity our mother. She's already so old, but she still has a troublesome granddaughter. These children are just playing around. How did it get to this extent? If word gets out, how will others look at the Xia family? It seems that the girls raised by the Xia family are all shrewd and show no respect to their elders. She would say 10 words when the elders say 1. Hearing Chen Lian's words, Li Jin felt that she was right. She went up to Xia Hai and lectured him, look at the good daughter you've raised. How dare she disobey me, her elder? I can't control her now, can I? When your father passed away early, I raised the 3 of you by myself. I washed your clothes when you were young and cooked every meal. In order to take care of you, I lived a hard life, harder than the animals at home. Now that I'm old, your children can bully me, right? As she spoke, Li Jin continued to hit Xia Hai, as if she had been wronged. Unlike Xia Wan, Li Jin couldn't cry. She could only say how pitiful she was, but in reality, she couldn't squeeze out any tears. Xia Hai didn't completely believe Li Jin and Chen Lian. He knew his daughter well. She was usually very obedient. Why would she seek death and even talk back to Li Jin? Mother, is there a misunderstanding? Wan is not an insensible child. She's always been very obedient. How could she have wanted to commit suicide? Why did it become Wan who tried to destroy the family's reputation? Wan is also a part of this family. Why would she ruin its reputation? Isn't that something only a fool would do? Seeing that Xia Hai did not believe her, Li Jin sat down on the floor and started acting shamelessly. I'm old now. You don't believe me anymore. Now that you have your own children, you're biased. You want to give everything good to your children. I'm old now. You all looking down on me. I've worked so hard to raise you 3 and watched you get married and have children. I didn't expect that you would have everything now, except for me. Xia Wan said that she wanted to hit her head on the wall just now. Everyone heard it, but you still think I'm talking nonsense. In your heart, am I a person full of lies? Xia Hai, I'm your mother. Seeing Li Jin's reaction, Xia Hai was at a loss. As the eldest son, Xia Jiang immediately stopped Li Jin and advised him, "Mother, what are you doing? Let's talk this out. We're all family. What can't we talk about? There's no need for all that fuss. If the neighbors hear this, they'll be laughing at our family." Li Jin didn't seem to care and continued to shout regardless. Xia Wan looked at him coldly, then at Xia Hai's conflicted expression. She knew that it wouldn't be that easy to make Xia Hai's heart turn to them. At that moment, Chen Lian had already explained the situation to Xia He. Xia He knew that his son, Xia Yu, had done something wrong, but he didn't take it seriously. Xia Wan was just a little girl, and no matter how important she was, she could not be compared to Xia Yu. Hence, Li Jin would definitely side with Xia Yu. Today, Xia Wan couldn't escape. Even those who were protecting Xia Wan couldn't. "Mother, don't make a fuss. Can't we talk things out properly? Can we sit down and talk?" Xia Hai lowered his body and pleaded. Li Jin did not get up. Instead, she glared at Xia Wan. Xia Wan did something wrong today. She hooked up with another man and ruined her reputation. She even wanted to ask for eggs from me. Where would I get eggs for her? That's why she's holding a grudge against me. Now that she has the chance, she's threatening an old woman like me. I'm so pitiful. Why do I have such an insensible and shameless granddaughter? Xia Hai furrowed his brows and quickly said, "Mother, what are you saying? How did Wan hook up with a man? You can't say this on a whim. If this gets out, then Wan's reputation will be ruined."